right, sounds good. Thanks everyone once again for joining us here for this webinar. Why Confluence is, where the email or Word doc substitute, right? So we are partnering up with a wonderful marketplace vendor, Kolekti guys, and I have two great folks to talk about, what all they've been doing with Confluence outside of its regular UI, and how that is proving to be a great utility for many of their customers as well. So we'll kickstart with some introductions, and then we'll cover the agenda quickly, and then we'll jump straight into how Trundle has been using Confluence and what content formatting, marketplace add-ons, and their whole suite of add-on package could bring to the table. So we'll do some live demos, and then we'll try and address the questions. So I'll start with mine, and I'll toss on the ball to AB and Tim here. So my name is Manohar Goli, and I am the co-founder, CTO here at Trundle. I will be talking about all the use cases, various different aspects in which we use Confluence here at Trundle. And then, we'll see how content formatting would help us elevate that experience as well. Over to you, AB and Tim.
I'll go first then. So I'm Abby Brown. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Kolekti, and I look after all of our Confluence apps. So I am a daily Confluence user, and I spend most of my day trying to help my customers get the most out of Confluence. And mostly that's with our apps, surprisingly.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Mahar. Yeah, Abby's not a daily user, she's a super user. So please do take this opportunity to learn about Confluence and everything it can do for you guys. My name's Tim Sadler. I'm the product marketing lead here at Kolekti. So my job is to work with Abby and other team members in Kolekti to join the kind of the product to the marketplace. So creating that story so you can explain it and understand it a bit more, both internally and externally. So yeah, it's just developing that understanding so we can all get into that rich environment, which is Confluence. And yeah, looking forward to hearing some questions from you guys later on.
Thank you both for joining us here. All right, so here is a brief agenda on what all we're going to cover from Trundle side, and then there'll be a lot of click and show from Abby and Tim over here, right? So we'll try and kind of cover briefly on how Trundle uses the Confluence, because at the end of the day, we are kind of telling all our customers to use Confluence in whatever way possible. So we want to kind of lead that game and show our customers many examples on how this is used in so many different for different teams and how it's helpful for us, right? And we'll also talk about what benefits this could bring to businesses when it's really kind of structured and designed. It's very easy for a tool like Confluence to become a wild west. People can just add anything and everything that they can ever think about, right? We can think about it's a great substitute to some of the doc storages as well. So just having a brief touch upon how we need to kind of well structure it, and making it more design focused could bring a huge benefits, right? So that will part also be covered in the later part with how Kolekti can add value to the Confluence in each of these areas, like structuring it, designing it, making the knowledge and information accessible to users across the board. So how it is. And obviously we all know that when we talk about Confluence, we always know that there's a huge amount of Jira content that flows into it, or to that matter, a bulk of other Atlassian application specific data flows into Confluence, because Confluence is perceived as kind of more front-ending, to combine the story and the actual data points into reporting at various different levels, right? So, and then we can also just talk about how you can just take that first step. What's the best way to experience this whole tool, which is kind of something which we think is greatly beneficial for every user across the board in small to large enterprise setting. All right, so particularly some of the things that we have been using Confluence over I would say 7 to 8 years here at Trundle. So one of the primary usage on a daily basis, it's a very key for us. Every meeting, every team meeting hurdle, we want to have contextual information, all the discussion points that we do and collaborate over them over and over and again. So we don't want to put that into an email and create a thread that is spanning across like 15, 20, 30 threads, right? So we'd rather use a single page or nested pages to kind of track all of the team's work in one place. So no more searching for team threads and updates from a month ago on what we discussed. So we tend to use team notes as a great Confluence page, or a bunch of pages with a proper structure, as a team notes. Again, that goes to the meeting notes. We tend to have so many meetings because of distributed nature of our teams, where we have people spanning across 4 or 5 different time zones working on different set of challenges on a daily basis. So we tend to meet on addressing each of those. So we kind of put everything into a Confluence page. Confluence is a great meeting note templates that you can leverage right out of the box, which will give you a pretty good starting structure, having an agenda items and then follow-up action items and the tasks that you can spin off of those meeting items, right? So that is another big use case that pretty much kind of speak to every distributed working team for sure, right? And then with the business of we being in professional services, managed services, we are tasked to manage customer environments, and making sure that their environments are doing the best and getting the best ROI on their product investments within Atlassian space. So we want to make sure that everybody across the board kind of understands how to go about the business. So we write up a lot of standard SOP documents, starting from doing the checklists to writing up the estimates, scoping the projects, and then all the way to deploying and maintaining and running these environments, over multi-year contracts. So having a standardization documents in, very accessible place, and also using the versioning capability of Confluence to kind of continuously improve is a great way, right? Another very common thing across the board, policies. Each company has different set of policies that they kind of tend to write up, starting from HR to finance to, ops to, the tech space. A lot of policy documents are there. And especially if you're trying to kind of, become a more of a standardized company, like, the Trundle had been trying to kind of get ISOs and all of those industry standardizations to kind of get the credentials in place. So a lot of policy documents needs to be in place, and not just writing up those policies and dumping in a space, but making them available to all the employees. It's a thing that is important. So we've been very consciously kind of trying to kind of bring all the information, relevant information, to relevant set of users with the right set of permissions for right set of user personas to have access to these policies. So we've been implementing all of that in Confluence of late, right? And far less but very important, executive summaries. As I mentioned before, bringing different sources of information into a space and adding a story to it, adding a narrative to it, makes the overall reporting capabilities much more. Because if you just pull up a Jira report with a bunch of tickets in it, that may not paint a best picture to your executives, right? So bringing that combination of that information, bringing other documents, and then creating a whole narrative around what you're trying to present in a Confluence page is a great way. It's a great convergence point for a bunch of these data points, right? And another thing, once you start writing something, and if you feel that that's going to be used over and over and again, you just simply templatize. Confluence has this great capability to convert any documents into a templatized page that can be used, so that you don't have to start creating these documents from step zero all the time, but rather just keep improvising it and then start off with a bunch of other things, like more templatization. So this brings like huge benefits, as we talked about, right? So So we're starting to kind of see some questions, but we will definitely kind of take them a little bit late in the webinar, right? So to talk about some of the major benefits of attempting to kind of address these use cases within Confluence, definitely standardization, because you are able to kind of define templates, you're able to define preset information patterns, making sure that everybody kind of using the same documents over and over and again makes it a great case for people to start putting the information in a particular standardization structures. And with everything being around the knowledge workers, having all the company specific information accessible in one place, makes it much more easier for transitions, for teams to kind of grow and make it easy. And at the end of the day, having control over the company's information is of a paramount importance for many companies out there as of today. All right. Okay. So we talked about various different general use cases, and here are some specific things that we use, right? For us, as we go into our business, right, primarily Trundle is an Atlassian solution partner. That means, we tend to kind of, consult on gamut of things within this Atlassian space, and we have to kind of, capture every detail that we hear from our customers on a regular basis, right, because our sales team, there are like so many different teams involved, starting from, primary lead to all the way to, converting a lead into a customer would require us to kind of capture details that we hear from every stakeholder that's involved in here. So we have built a very good pipeline in terms of how we document what the outcomes are from every conversation our sales and pre-sales team does with our potential customers, which will then be kind of become an input to our SOWs, because at the end of the day, what has been discussed and agreed in the sales and pre-sales should be converted into what the actual work that needs to be delivered in here, right? So this is proving to be a huge benefit for us, particularly kind of having a clear pipeline established all the way from a starting point to an end point. And at the end of the day, these becomes the source of truth for our downstream teams when they are executing the project in itself. So all the information is available, context is available. They don't need to go elsewhere. If they are talking about or working with the customer, they know exactly where to access this information, and the context around it is clearly available there, with all the collaboration happened right then and there, with all the comments and inputs from various different stakeholders are readily available on the page, right? And then everything that we talk about our customers, to our policies, to our improvements, to even running our fun activities or engagement activities, we tend to use Confluence for that. So whatever we talk internally, or with even to that matter with our customers, they're all captured in a Confluence. And again, tag to the context, tag to the customer spaces, tag to the customer pages. So no going and searching for why a particular line was added, was discussed in a meeting, because we already have everything in there, right? Again, as I mentioned, it's a proper pipelining, right? So we want to make sure that the information that's been captured within the pre-sales, sales, converting that into contracts, and then doing a projects off of that, would require us to kind of, make sure we track everything in there. So we have a control to kind of, share, put what document that we can use internally, because everything that we talk internally doesn't need to be kind of, communicated with other external stakeholders. So we have a very good way of, splitting that information into internal facing and public facing. So that's absolutely, available for us. So, again, those are some day-to-day, very highly used use cases for us, that kind of, Confluence becomes very critical aspect of us. And then I talked about, the team building activities or HR specific information that is accessed by employees on a very regular basis as well. Not as much as, that we do for the pre-sales SOW and the customer specific, but still they are of paramount importance, because at the end of the day, our internal stakeholders, the employees, are so critical, in driving that success and driving that customer experience to the customer, right? So we're making sure that they are not frustrated in, finding certain aspects of our own information, right? So we make sure that all of that is driven into Confluence, very much, accessible to them as well, right? So those are some of the extended use cases and specific areas where Trundle currently leverages Confluence in, right? So again, as I mentioned, we talked about so many different things that Confluence allows us to do right now. Confluence is again a combination of pages, tied into a specific space with certain set of permissions and the users with templates accessing them and creating content, right? So without creating that structure or giving a definition to how the information needs to flow within a space or within a premise, it becomes challenging again, right? At the end of the day, what we want to boost is to make sure that we are boosting the collaboration and knowledge sharing, is going to be the final outcome of all of that we are trying to kind of do with Confluence, right? So this is where the templates comes into the picture. This is where standardization comes into the picture. Then you put everything on top of it is going to add more benefits. That's where the content formatting comes into the picture, because people who have been using Confluence very well are aware that the document could span like multi-page, and losing the context of what you read in the first page versus what you're reading in the 10th page. If it's not easily accessible right there, it becomes very difficult to kind of collaborate and make a comprehensive meaning of whatever that content is within the page. So that's where the content formatting apps come into the picture, allowing you to create the vertical tabs, horizontal tabs, design the content in such a way that it's very well accessible, and then making it to use it, right? And again, we have seen this driving this standardization, to make the business benefits has to come from every level, and that will only come if the usage of it becomes easy, not cumbersome at all. So that's one way we are going to do it, and we will look at how that well structuring and designing will come into picture with some of the apps that Kolekti has in space. And we talked about the correlationship with Jira, right? So largely anyone that's been using Atlassian's tools, right? Primarily, everybody talks about Jira and Confluence, right? And you could ask, like, we are able to do so much within Confluence, why talk about Jira in here? So Jira brings in that linear and agile and workflow centric, a process driven approach into it, where Confluence, it kind of gives us a bit more free flowing information that can be kind of structured to kind of speak or behave like a workflow in nature. But however, there are so many things that Jira does that Confluence cannot do. There are so many things that Confluence can do but Jira cannot do. But combining them both, their individual powers could make it a lethal combo, right? As I mentioned again, your development teams might be working on developing a feature that might have hundreds of tickets that they're working on, and rolling up into a version release or a feature release or an initiative. It can only just bunch of tickets. We're going through a set of process, but how do you want to kind of paint a picture with all of that happening in Jira, right? So that's where tight integration between Jira and Confluence comes into the picture. So you can technically embed a single ticket to hundreds of tickets with different combinations into Confluence, and then use all of these macros and capability to write a story and paint a picture is a huge benefit in here as well, right? So people will, obviously ask, like, how do we get started? The best way to is, just sign up, and then, just do a deep dive into it. Atlassian gives, a 10 user free license without, charging any of the customers. So that's a great way to start. Even though it's a standard environment, you will be able to kind of access every capability, that's very much needed for a distributed team and knowledge workers to be able to collaborate and see the benefit of, not having to use email as a way of, communicating critical information and collaborating on it. So diving into it, experiencing it is, kind of a great way to kind of a start. And then obviously, the teams can start building off of the knowledge that comes out of those collaborations. And there is a very, very good documentation, public documentation that's available out there. But there's always, trying it out, using it, and try and applying the tool to your use cases is the best way to kind of see, the Confluence would fit into your bill or not. So, but I would now hand it over to friends at Kolekti to kind of show us how, the structuring and designing the content would make it more appealing. So I would not want to touch on the standard UI, but rather, let you get blown away by some of the capabilities that Kolekti can bring in here. Over to you folks. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen and let one of you share it.
Yep, I'll probably take over sharing. So I'm not sure about what everyone's level of Confluence is on chat. And I've seen Kirsten's asked a couple of questions, so I'll try and answer those as we kind of go through looking at it. So if I just share my screen. So I think Confluence is a very simple tool. And as I should just informed us, email, Word documents, Google documents, I mean, they do all have their place. But I think for remote teams, collaboration, then Confluence really does beat them hands down. And for me, I think it really is quite a simple system to use. And one of its beauties really is you can live edit. So if you've got teams across and people want to comment, share the documents, it is all really simple. So just in case anyone is brand new, I will give you a quick whistle-top tour of standard Confluence. So this is my personal space. And one thing, if you have a personal space, is you are the admin of your space. So you can actually do quite a lot more things in your space than you're maybe allowed to do in other people's spaces. So it's always quite a nice area to show. So this is my space. You'll see I've got lots of little pages that I go through. A lot of them are what I call my demo pages. So I mostly create pages for my customers and to show off some of our kind of more high-end macros. So this is kind of like a starter page. So it has been built with our macros. But if we go along the top here, you can see that Confluence is pretty straightforward. So home, if I'm ever stuck and I want to know where I've been, I can go home and it will tell you where I've been recently, as will your recent pages. Spaces shows you all the other areas your teams and your company have, so you can easily find everything. We also have a team. So these are my collaborators that I've been using recently. My favorite tab here is the apps one. So if you have a drop down here, you'll be able to see any apps that your company have already subscribed to. So you'll see there's my favorite content formatting and forms, and also guided pathways. I am possibly a little biased. If you are like me and you maybe lack that design ability to create pages, which I'll be honest, I do, this is probably my favorite tab if I'm wanting to do documents, because this is where all the templates live. So if going to this button and creating a page fills you with horror because you just think, oh, what am I going to do? I mean, yeah, I've got my editor. I could ask the automation to write something for me, but I might think, oh, there's a lot of blank space here. I personally would go to templates. And in here, you have hundreds of templates. So there's Confluence templates. There are marketplace templates. So we have templates in here too. You've got your popular ones. If, for instance, I wanted to look at marketing ones, I can just type in here. And then you've got some nice marketing ones already created for you. And all you would need to do is create use, and the template itself would then take over and create you a page. So there we go. My fear of my blank page has been overcome. If I want to use this, I've got a nice template And there's a bit of a roadmap planner in there as well. So I'm not sure whether Kirsten was asking about calendars and campaigns, but obviously this can be adapted into other ideas as well. And there are lots of apps in the marketplace that will boost Confluence. So if you want your Gantt charts, there's going to be an app for that. So you can add that in as well. If I go back out from here, because I don't want to create that template, you know, I might decide I do just want to create my blank page. And again, for me, I think it's a pretty simple. So I could have created it here. I could have gone down and gone to my space and created it here as well. So we have lots of areas where you can hit create. Basically, look for your plus button. It's all pretty simple. And the beauty of this now is I'm creating, so let's call this Abby's testing area. And if I wanted to, I could come along here, and this is my editor. So kind of what you see is what you get. And I'm sure I don't need to tell anybody really how to kind of create, but should you need to, you've got your layouts. So do we want to start messing here? We can start typing whatever we want to do. We can remove this. We might want to say, actually, this is a header. I could really do with a banner. And to easily access macros, we can either go up here and find one. So if we know what we want, we can start typing. If we're unsure, we can scroll, we can look. Or the very simple one as well is to come in here and just do /. And in this case, I want a banner. So I'm going to start typing banner. And this is where kind of we would say that we add the value. So this is content formatting macros, Kolekti's interactive banner. And what this does is it gives me a little bit more than your basic sort of layout and template, and it will allow me to customize. It's a little bit like having a live PowerPoint display. So you've got our preview, so we know what's going to happen. We have a little step-by-step guide in here as well, so we can see if we don't already know how we're going to work this out. Because I do know how, we can easily click and start. And we've been even more helpful on this macro. We've got a bit of an AI in. So if AI is something you like and you want to help, then if you click this in here and it will let you choose, you know, is this going to be an announcement slide? And then you have a prompt, as you will with AI. So I might want to say, new app alert. So we have a new app, guided pathways. And we'll say in here, oh, it's not launched, it's launched. No one can help my spelling. And we very simply just say generate slide. And as you can see, your life's getting even easier. I don't even have to go and pick a picture or decide on my words. It does it all for me. But I do still have the control. I could ask it to regenerate the slide, or I could scroll down here and I could, now the AI's helped me, give me a bit of a prompt. I might just go in here and think, do you know what? I think the body's really good, but I'm not too sure about that picture. So I might go in here, and these are our pixels, which are our stock images. And I might say, well, you know, a guided pathway, bit of a decision tree, bit of a maze to help you get out of. I'll have a maze picture because I think that's better. And in here, we just can go around now and we can change, if we want to, different sections that have been chosen for us. Do we want the original size? Do we want to move things around? Probably not in that case. That looks a bit strange. But we have the control and we can go and create. One of the things I love about the interactive banner is it automatically not just gives me an announcement slide, it gives me a button. So it's kind of a two in one. So, and the great things about the buttons, if I was using this as my announcement for our new app, I can have a little text in here. But the beauty here is my button can send people elsewhere. So if I want to be sent to another Confluence page, I can just start typing and it will bring them up and I can link that. or I could have added a link over here and sent them outside of Confluence to another page. All very simple. And I can even specify that I wanted them to open that in another tab. And then we can have multiple slides. The slides can rotate, so we can have an auto scroll on, or they can just stay. So it's not only helping you bring the reader's eye to your page, it's also a bit of interaction as well. So, you know, we don't just have to have this as guided pathways. We could now have this as a multiple view. So, you know, this could be content formatting macros. She says in a mindless plugging. We'll leave those on for those ones. And then if we're happy, we can just save that. And one of the things that I think people tend to worry about is publishing. So we could publish, we could close it and it stays as draft. If I wanted it to stay as a draft, I could. I could also give others access to come and have a look. If another member of my team was also working on it with me, then they can have access and they can work on this as well. So you've got your preview. We can see what it would look like in our live page. So we could get people to come and comment on that for us. Or we could just publish. And even when you're publishing, you get to specify. So for instance, if I wasn't ready to share this, I can come in here and I can say only specific people can view or edit. So I can open it up to my team for some live collaboration. Or I can say that anyone can look at it, but only some can edit. Or we could be nice and open. And one of the key things I think is great about Confluence is, you know, knowledge shouldn't really be locked away. Knowledge is for everybody. And I think that is the beauty of Confluence. You know, it's not in email. It's not in someone's Google Doc who's left the business and now we can't find all our documentation. It's here, it's open, people come and access it. And you can comment, so you could comment down here at the bottom, so people could come and kind of ask me questions or make comments down here. They can inline comment. So it is very fluid. One of the kind of beauty of the templates is if you really don't want to start kind of creating your own, is we can come in here. And I suppose one of the things that I would say that I come across people using Confluence for a lot is things like knowledge bases. You've got technical people who may be using it, you know, they need their DACI, their other things, but a lot of other people use things for home pages, for documentation. So if we use this homepage one, now this is one of Kolekti's templates. So in ours, we will have a little template preview, so you can see how it can be. But what it's done is it's defaulted some macros on here for you. And you as the editor can now go in and start to make this your own. Or you can delete. So if I didn't want that one, we could delete it. You can see we've got lots of different of our macros in here. We've got a background macro. Background macros are great for helping you have little containers, so you can have different areas that look nicer. You can have introductions to your team with the cards, you know, and these are really simple to use. If we kind of go in here, all you have to do is click it, edit, and in here you'll see that at the moment it's got Fred, it's got Paul. This poor person's unnamed, so we could go in. Who shall she be? Be me today. Put their job title in. Now, cards are a little bit like a great big button. So they're nice and visual. So they click on our lovely helping the reader bring their eye to things, because we know that generally walls of text are not easily digestible by our brains. Pictures, imagery does help us get to see things. But we also can attach pages. So this could be your team members. You could link them to their Confluence page. You could link them externally. You know, you could even attach, if you use something like Calendly, a calendar link if you want people to kind of, who are onboarding, to make calendar bookings with them. So again, we also can change color. And I think that's probably another exciting point about Confluence is we don't want it to look very black and white. Color will help bring things in. If we publish this, always give things a title. We'll get rid of our preview. And we're published. So a bit hard for me to see questions at the moment, but that's kind of a quick whistle top of how to quickly make a page in Confluence. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I appreciate people probably want specific pages to them, so I do encourage them to get their Confluence, go and have a look at all the templates and see what they can do. One of the other things you can do, if you were looking at ours, if you wanted the help to get started, if you go to our homepage, you can see that we have a number of different macros. So I don't want to kind of go through every single one. Tabs is always a popular one if you've got lots of information, great for people doing documentation. We've touched on buttons and our interactive banner. We have the visual impact ones as well. So we've touched on cards. Background is great for adding color, pictures, adding other apps inside. If you're more of the mathematical scientific persuasion, we've got latex. We've also got context, so you can add expands, tooltip, alerts. So we've got lots of different macros, and they're all there to help bring Confluence to life, really. So what I always say to people is think of the reader when you're creating your page. Can the reader easily find what they need? Do they need signposting? Another thing we have, another app that we have that can help guide people through would be guided pathways. Oh, question. My number one Confluence feature and strength. For me, I think it's probably the fact that the live editing feature. I think the fact that you can create documents across countries, across time zones is pretty critical. I work quite closely with my colleagues who is out in Zambia, and we often get on and start doing Confluence pages together. So we have ideas, we have topics that we're working on, we'll start a Confluence page and we will both edit it together so that we get all the information we want. And it's just easier than sending each other emails back and forward or Slack messages or me creating a Word document, sending it to her for approval. We'll just both come online and start creating our document. I don't know whether Tim has any thoughts or that he wants to chip in of what your favorite Confluence feature is.
That's an interesting question now, but I'm gonna pivot the question to a little bit wider one. Actually, I was looking at the title of this webinar earlier today, and that kind of early question of why use Confluence over email or other methods of sharing information. And obviously Abby and myself, we work in an environment where Confluence is our day-to-day. So yes, we do have other platforms we work with. We have obviously the Jira world where our products are being developed. We have other apps we work with, things like Slack for that everyday sort of like chitter chatter, but that quick question answer stuff every business has. But I looked at our Confluence and I started to categorize everything we use it for. Now we're obviously super users. We work in this environment. We're a platinum partner to Atlassian, so we're in this world. But it's very easy to forget how much we use it. And so I wrote down. So I've got a list here, which I just quickly did before this call, which was this is everything that Kolekti. So only Kolekti. So a small part of the Adaptivist group, but a very integral part. This is what we use it for. We use it for knowledge management, project management, documentation and reporting, team collaboration. We use it for internal communications and HR. We use it for event planning and coordination. We use it for product development. We use it for customer support. We use it for marketing campaigns. We use it for compliance and auditing. We use it for keeping everyone aligned remotely if they're distributed around the world. We use it for research and development. We use it for financial planning. And I think that's it. So on a daily basis, we can jump into all these different pages. And to Abby's point, using some of our macros like content formatting, we can bring them to life, because what we recognize within the Confluence space is, yes, you can just dump information. And we see it all the time. Abby sees it. I know she sees it a lot more than a lot of us does. And you can go in there and you can literally just type information or just cut and paste it from something else, which we see all the time. But that doesn't engage an audience. And it's just like those early days, and I'm old enough to remember those early days of the internet when we all had GeoCities web pages, which were, again, just text. And then someone put a fancy background on it, and then someone worked out how to make the letters sparkle. And we start getting the internet we have today, this engaging place. Confluence and the way that macros work with Confluence is very similar. What the macros do is allow you to just punch out from the page and engage your audience, which is really important when it comes to company information. So when it comes down to onboarding, when it comes down to HR topics, when it comes down to selling your message across your own internal organization or externally, that you can do this by punching out with an awesome banner or by using buttons or all these different things, which just engages the user. They tie into that page and that content. So I don't have one single thing, which I think is great about Confluence. I think just as a platform, we quite often overlook all the benefits it can actually bring, not just internally, but externally within a business. It's overlooked because Jira is this amazing platform over here, and that's normally the big sales machine. Confluence, though, as a central hub to a business, is so important. We see that within the Adaptivist group. It's always well, where's the page on that? And you go to the page, and that's your information source, and it will link out and cross everything and do that. So it's an amazing resource, which, as Manahar said, you can all just jump into. There isn't actually there's a very low barrier to entry here. Within Kolekti, we set up a lot of test instances where we just play around with things, work out how things work, and you can just set up loads because it's free for under 10 users. So you can just jump in there, play around with some apps, have a look how things work, or do it in your own space if you've already got an instance. It's a great place to dive in and learn. There's no barrier to entry here. So yeah, please do get in there and try around things.
Absolutely. And for us, particularly for me, one of the favorite things is, as I mentioned and emphasized, having knowledge or the information in a contextually set environment. I don't want to kind of go back and look at 10 of my emails and what I discussed about a piece of deliverable that I committed to a client 10 months ago. That's literally impossible because you get to see like hundreds of emails flowing in inbox, and that could soon grow. So having context set around any information would change the overall weightage of that particular information in particular. So that's one of my great things that I take out of a conference. So
yeah, we don't see very many emails being used at Adaptivist anymore. If you get an email, it probably means you're in trouble. So yeah, we share information via the power of Confluence. It's so much more powerful.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me on to an important point as well, is finding information is kind of key. And one of the key things I always think when you're creating pages is adding labels. Really easy to do. But what needs to always be important is to have uniformity across it, so that, simple things that if I was doing, let me go into this one and say, if I wanted to add my labels, and this one is my knowledge base, then you can see what other people have tagged, and you can see, do I want to be knowledge base dynamic, or do I just want my own and I have it as a knowledge base? Because how people search is how they will find. And by putting labels on, the labels make your pages more likely to be found. So when you are creating this great content and these fantastic pages and you want them to be found, I would really say adding labels is key, but also as a business, trying to keep the same level. So probably a key one is when you're doing things like onboarding, do you spell it onboarding as one word? Do you hyphenate it? And that will make a big difference. And so there's another key one for you. Which also could bring you onto the topic of how easy is it for people who are onboarding with Confluence? Because Confluence is often used as an onboarding tool. And, I do believe that with the help of our macros, you can make nice, engaging pages, which is fantastic. But can everybody find where they are, what comes first? And that's a big thing that people say to us, is that got all this great information in Confluence. People never quite know, where do they start, where do they end? And that very blatantly brings me on to one of our other apps, which is Guided Pathways. So Guided Pathways is a brand new app, recently launched on the marketplace, and it really does help your users to navigate around. So many user cases. We've even used it as a game on this one. But if you were using it for onboarding, and if this is some of our guides, this is the app itself. So we found it up in the app section here. So I could create a guide. These are the guides that we've created. So this is Adaptivist's own Confluence space. So you can see I've got lots of ones in here where various people across our business have been starting to create them. And if I show you in here, what you will see is it's great at showcasing the pages, but from a higher level. So we can see that these are existing Confluence pages from Kolekti. So this is our Kolekti world. You'll be able to see as we go through, there are some of our macros in here. But what it does is it leads people through the journey. So we've got our next steps. Where are we going? Well, we'll just continue. And this is a guide for Guided Pathways, which is quite nice. But you've got our vision statement, our mission, our purpose. Is there any problems? Our team statement. Then down here, we could meet the team. We could see what's relevant to you. We could do the product plan. If we go to the top, you can see where we've come from. So it's a bit like breadcrumbs right away. And we would just pick up. So we might decide, I'm going to go to the roadmap. And in here, we can now see, here's our product plan. And probably I think someone might have asked the question about adding other content in. So you can link and embed. You can see in here, we've got, I think it's Miro on our roadmap board. So that's just been embedded into the page, and it's really simple. A little bit like when I was showing you the macros earlier, that you can do a slash. The often joke is, do you want to add something to the page? The chances are Atlassian or someone else has a macro to help you do that. And embed is a great one. So you can embed links into other systems, bring documents through, so your Gantt charts, you can show them. If you've already created them, you can then create them a link within Confluence as well. So you've got an ideas board. Our next step would be to go to you. And that's just kind of a role as a PNM. But you can see, if I wanted to go back a step, I could either go up there, I could follow my breadcrumbs, I could have had a back button. And we can maybe go and say, was there somewhere else we could have got? Let's go to product. Maybe scroll to the bottom. Oh, yes, we forgot to meet the team. So we can go in here and we can see our team, and you can add things like surveys in here. So for instance, if you were using it as your onboarding tool, you could have a survey form at the front asking people, how do you feel at the beginning, at the end of the journey? You could have survey results, has this improved your onboarding journey? If you're using it as part of kind of a HR and you might want to raise Jira tickets, then you could use our forms where you can actually create a survey in here to order a new computer, and that will then automatically log a ticket into Jira for you. So sometimes not everybody has access to Jira, whether that be a licensing issue or just that people don't want non-technical people like myself in there. But what you can also use Confluence for is set up a simple form, and that can then update and create Jira tickets for you as well. So along with the whole, as Tim said, that Jira is this big beast and everyone kind of thinks Jira first, or Confluence can also be there to mop up maybe your non-technical people. So yes, marketing, HR can come in here, they can create their pages, have their content in here, they can live edit, they can maneuver things around. But also it's a great area for you to put things that you can start creating Jira tickets from without having to, it's a bit like having a front end for me as non-technical people that's not as scary as creating a full Jira ticket. And, our Forms app can help walk you through that as well. Create your surveys, create your polls. let me just have a quick look. I think I did see another question before. I don't know if we've answered your questions, Kirsten. Obviously happy to talk to you outside of this as well. As a quick kind of caveat, when I was mentioning adding things, so you've got adding images, videos, files, so you can add things. So these ones are standard Confluence macros. I think ours are great, but Atlassian have some themselves as well. So if you scroll through here, you can use expand, tables, add your code snippets in, your info panel. So there's lots of things you can do. And I think we alluded to before, you can also use it to bring in details from Jira as well. So if you want this to be somewhere where the managers can come in and see at a top level what's going on, then you can create documents that just bring in the highlights over as well. So they don't have to go scrolling and searching for those Jira tickets.
And Kristen did ask about a Gantt chart. Confluence has a Gantt chart called as roadmap. You just type in roadmap on the macro. It'll give you a roadmap that you can just use it. Roadmap planner. Yeah, you can use that to kind of define a timeline of what you're working towards.
And everything's really simple and user-friendly. I don't think there's anything in Confluence that I would say is particularly complicated. It really is what you see is what you get. And I think from our perspective, the macros, going to the marketplace and the add-ons, they're all there to make Confluence a better thing as well. So, Confluence is a brilliant starting point. And then if you do need more advanced features, then, the marketplace has you for that too. But definitely,
sorry.
I was just going to say, go in, have a play around would be my view.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a very interesting environment. Confluence is different to other platforms, and one of the the key things here is and to Abby's point there, this is a platform which is very simple. It's very intuitive. One of our kind of mantras, if for want of a better term, is for Kolekti apps, they should be intuitive. You should be able to add a macro. It should really solve a pain point really quickly, simply, and efficiently. But it's always changing. It's evolving because users' needs and your company's needs, your business needs, and the market needs are always changing as we evolve as businesses. And Confluence is always evolving as a product as well. Some other products out there are relatively static in their environments. But because Confluence is quite unique and it has a lot of vendor partners and it has a lot of people working on the platform, it can evolve in a much quicker, more agile way. So we as Kolekti are always looking at the pain points which people are experiencing both within platform but also outside. So if we see a pain point which is somewhere outside of Confluence, we know we can solve it within this environment. We'll start working and developing a solution for it. The other key thing which you don't get with other platforms, which you do get with Confluence, is a massive community. And it's if you haven't engaged in it or haven't looked into it, getting into the community space with Confluence, if you've got any questions, it's like having almost the whole business world as a help desk. So any question you have, whatever you think, even if it's the most simple question, yes, we have our functionality for help within Kolekti, and so do Atlassian. But there is a unique community with community leaders, some of which are actually employed by adapters. We have them on our team. There are lots in other companies as well. They are there to support your questions and your needs and provide answers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's completely unique. No other platform has that sort of interaction on a platform level. Yeah, you can go to other websites and type in questions, about certain thing, but this is within the platform. There's a community which is unmatched outside.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree. And me being as one of those ACE leaders, and I can say that this level of engagement in the community is amazing.
Definitely. I mean, there's just so much you can do with Confluence that I think sometimes people are a little bit scared of getting started, but it is really simple. You can't break it. And one of the best things that I love is if you go to a page, you can start to revert as well. So if you go in, you make a mistake, you've got the ability to revert to another version. So even if you write nonsense and then suddenly realize you've done it to someone else's page, you can go back and revert yourself. So you're only 1 or 2 clicks away from, from fixing everything you need. But yeah, and there's analytics in there as well. So you can see who's engaging with your pages as well. So
It's an automation, just click on automations, as a whole new game. The automations is brought in on the left hand side, right under the blogs on the yeah, just click on automations, just pull up the list, right? So this amazing set of automations that you can, and this is all kind of, icing on the cake types thing. These are all again comes in only once you start putting the content in a much more structured and accessible way, and then you can put everything on top of it.
yeah. And one of the things I know I've kind of banged about templates a lot is if you don't find the template you want in here, then you can create your own. So really simple. You can go into space settings, you've got your look and theme, and you can actually create your own company templates as well. And you'll see here, you can also promote ones. So if you kind of find templates that you think actually want everyone in the business to use, then you can promote them. And you can also add your own custom ones in there as well. So gone are those days of having to remember how your monthly meeting should look in structure. Create that report. Everybody uses it. Nice uniformity across the business.
Yep. All right, so quick time check. In top of the hour. Think let's see if there are any questions. Okay. Yeah, I addressed the one that about talking about the social feed. I think you already showed some of the social feed, how that can be done. So
yeah, so you can use buttons to add them in. You can do, I think someone might have mentioned blogs. Then Confluence actually has blogging as part of it. We as a business are big bloggers. So Adaptivist loves a good blog. So also really simple. If you wanted to create your own blog, and you would come in here. And again, I'd always say put some labels on so that people can find your blog as well.
And it is amazing, that feature, because we're actually quite a large company now across almost all time zones. And if you put the right labels in, your little blog and your own little personal space will suddenly get engagement from almost the whole company. It's amazing how far it reaches. And in all the comments, you can actually get some really, even if the blog is personal related. So we have discussions about stuff that's happening in our personal lives and how that's impacting work and those sort of things. You can actually find engagement throughout the business on those topics just by using the right labels. So yeah, it's a really powerful feature.
I remember that.
all right. Thank you again, once again, for joining us here, and I hope you all have taking away some good tips and motivation. If you have not started using Confluence, got motivated to just jump in there and sign up for one free site and just start using it. So we'd love to kind of hear the feedback, and the content of this webinar will be posted on both Adaptivist and as well as Trundle sites sooner than later. So as soon as we got everything trimmed off, the chat, but yeah, all the key things would be added in there. So feel free to just write us um, if you have any more questions, we're more than happy to kind of, help you guys get starting to use Confluence and much more than what you've been doing.